Hi guys, the Witchbone here. Just wanted to do another video on the Marielle. I've been getting a little bit more reacquainted with it. I've just recently, well not so recently, but I've trimmed it completely. And I have to say, it is so much better. And I work with it a lot better now. Now the Marielle, a lot of times people will describe this deck as it's a very deep deck, and basically what we mean by that is this deck, it does and it doesn't go on the Rider-Waite system. So we have some of the cards are traditional Rider-Waite meanings, but they're deeper, and some of the cards are a lot different. Nine of Swords. This Nine of Swords card is a lot happier than most Nine of Swords cards. This is more about dreams fulfilled once fears are conquered. So it's kind of like the step beyond the Nine of Swords. And that's kind of how I read a lot of the different cards. Another example of the Five of Pentacles or the Five of Coins. And this card means happiness is in the breast, or happiness is in the heart. This is realizing that your material hardship is not as important as what you think. So it's kind of like, you know, the Nine of Swords is kind of like the step beyond. Another thing that a lot of people don't like about the cards is her use of so many different pantheons. We have Athena, and then we have Poseidon, and then we have Hugin and Munin, Odin's ravens. Then we have the crone, Pan, and then we have angels for all the sixes, and then we have the four horsemen for all the tens. We also have an Egyptian goddess for justice. So it can be kind of a little irritating for some with all these different types of pantheons. But the thing about the Marielle, and this is what I really respect about this deck, is that I actually enjoy that she has a totally varied take on all these pantheons. Even in this card, the Two of Coins, she mentions Odin a lot, is her inspiration, even though she painted a woman. So it's just very, it's very in depth. And the thing that I will definitely recommend, and you don't have to look at all of these cards as that pantheon. You can come up with something different for yourself if it doesn't suit you. You know, Athena it doesn't have to be Athena, it can be Freya. Or any other god or goddess, or no god or goddess. Use your intuition. And what I will recommend with this deck is just trim it. I mean, you gotta at least trim the edges around it because they're uneven to start with, and they're just way too big to handle. And I wouldn't worry about, you know, the cardstock with the laminate coming up. Don't even worry about it. I've been using mine for so long, and they are holding up great. As long as you take care of your decks and you don't shuffle them real rough, and you keep them in a nice dry place, they will last you a good long time. But what I did was I trimmed them completely. I get rid of the words, and the reason why I got rid of the words is because every time I'd try to do a reading with this deck, I'd pull a card and I'd be like, oh, Three of Pentacles or Three of Coins, and then I would think to the traditional Three of Coins, you know, or whatever card I was pulling, and it was really messing up my readings. So once I cut the words off, it helped a lot. And of course, I've memorized what cards they are, but now whenever I look at them, I just see the picture. and I can use my intuition, and I can, I have separate meanings for some of the cards than the Rider-Waite-Smith. They're not totally different, like I said, but it's just kind of deeper, or the next step. So that's what helped me a lot with this deck. So I would definitely recommend that. Just take the plunge, just go ahead and trim them. And don't worry if you don't do it perfect. If you've got a couple that are a little uneven or whatever, get a little corner rounder. They're real cheap at Walmart. But, and if you don't worry about not memorizing what the cards are when you don't have the words. Because, when I first trimmed these, I just started reading them. I tried to forget the words, and I just started reading them as an oracle. Just straight from the pictures. And I got a lot more in-depth, more intuitive readings. I connected to the deck better than I did when there was words on the cards. So I hope that helps. You connect to the Marielle a little bit. I know a lot of people have trouble with this deck, but it is definitely one of my favorites. I don't tend to read with clients with this deck a whole lot. If I do, I only use it as kind of an additive to a reading. I'll only pull a couple cards, as a lot of people can get a little weird about this deck. And this deck does have a lot of nudity that some people that aren't very mature can't handle. There is transvestites as the aces, but if you understand her meaning for doing that, it's really awesome. It's a really good take on the aces. And here's one. I mean, like I said, if you're mature about it, it's really not that big of a deal if you understand the meanings. But you can see why I don't typically pull this out for a client reading. And plus, it's really deep. So I mostly just use it for myself. I take this deck with me everywhere. And that's my favorite card from the deck, Nine of Cups. But yeah, this is mostly a personal deck, and it's a very spiritual deck. I use it for witchcraft and spell practices. So I hope you guys have found this helpful in connecting to your Marielle. And just remember that the cards have a much deeper meaning, and you don't have to go by everything that her book says. Sometimes it can be a little airy for people. But just put your own intuition into it and get into it. If you really love a card and you really see it as a certain thing versus what other people are saying, then just go with it. Because you're the one that has to connect to the deck, not anybody else.